There have been plenty of intense rivalries that have taken place over the course of pro wrestling history. And with this weekend being WWE Bad Blood and showcasing feuds such as Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk, Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan, Finn Balor versus Damian Priest, and of course the Bloodline's ongoing struggle with Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. My name is Jose Ramos Jr. and join me on this week's 5 count as I share 5 of my favorite pro wrestling rivalries. But before we do that, be sure to subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with all the pro wrestling content that I produce and to be a member of the J Area. And with that being said, let's jump right into it. Kicking off this week's 5 count, let's start with number 5, Triple H versus Shawn Michaels. Certainly a personal favorite of mine, as everyone knows that Shawn Michaels is my favorite pro wrestler of all time. This is a rivalry that really took place over the course of a decade. It goes back all the way to the days of the Clique. Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Shawn Michaels, evolving into members of D-Generation X, and upon Shawn Michaels suffering a back injury, forcing him into retirement for about 4 years, Triple H was able to evolve and grow into the cerebral assassin that we have all grown to know. But then once Shawn Michaels returns, comes out of retirement, his very first feud is with Triple H. They have a classic unsanctioned match at SummerSlam 2002, followed by an Elimination Chamber match, the first of its kind at the Survivor Series, and then at Armageddon the very next month, they would have a 3 Stages of Hell match where Shawn Michaels would really lose the title to Triple H, beginning that 2003 Reign of Terror. But after that, we also saw matches between the two at the likes of the Final Raw in 2003, their Last Man Standing match at the Royal Rumble, and a couple of triple threat matches at WrestleMania 20 and Backlash 2004, before finally culminating their feud at Bad Blood 2004 inside the Hell in a Cell. I think this is what happens when you have two really close friends having a high intensity rivalry, and it really shows. These two left everything out in the ring, and for me, it continues to be the blueprint of what it means to have two best friends feuding in a WWE ring. At number 4, we have Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock. This is the pinnacle of having two of the very best at their game, at each other's throats, fighting for that top spot. As we know, Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, no strangers to the main event, but whenever we had these two in the ring, we knew it was to be fireworks. They would headline 3 WrestleManias, of course being WrestleMania 15, 17, and 19 being the only one that wasn't a main event, but it surely was worthy of a main event spot. I think when you have guys like The Rock and Stone Cold, you're down to have one of the best matches of the nights, certainly of the year. And what this storyline really focused on was who was the best. You didn't really need to have an in-depth storyline that pitted these two against each other for personal reasons, other than the fact that both wanted to be in that top spot. The promos, the vignettes, the matches. There's a reason why WrestleMania 17 My Way. There's a reason why that video package is considered to be the best of all time. Not only because of the combination of the music, but because of the stars that were involved. I don't think we will ever see something the likes of a Stone Cold versus The Rock. If you ask me, I think the closest we're going to get to might be Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns, but that's still light years away from what The Rock and Stone Cold were able to do throughout their feud. At number 3, we have The Undertaker versus Kane. When you think pro wrestling, some people tend to think it's outlandish, it's cartoony, it's silly. That can be argued for this feud right here. The Undertaker versus Kane, spawning from 1997 all the way to 2010, maybe even still present day if you want to argue that. But two fictional brothers who go all the way back to when they were children, and how it started off as a Cain and Abel type of storyline. We have supernatural elements, superpowers, and mind games throughout the course of this feud. But when you look at their feuds between WrestleMania 14 and WrestleMania 20, those are really the two that come to mind. Of course, there's moments like the Survivor Series 2003 where Kane buries The Undertaker. There's also moments where Kane was set on fire during the Inferno match at Unforgiven 1998. Plenty of moments, plenty of matches between the two. I will argue it may not be the highest of quality in terms of matches, but if we're going to strictly rivals, strictly storylines, I think it's very hard to argue that these two should not be included on these top 5 or top 10 lists. Now at number 2, I have Mr. McMahon versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. There was a big part of me that considered having this at number 1 just because of the ramifications and the consequences that would come after the fact. Mr. McMahon versus Stone Cold is the prototypical authority figure versus babyface storyline. Just everything it represented. Everyone around the world knows that one person who has the boss, or maybe they are the person who has the boss, and they just don't get along. They want to be able to stick it to the man. They want to be able to fight off the boss whenever they damn well please. And Stone Cold Steve Austin really was able to do that on a weekly basis. So many classic memories in this feud. Of course, there's the cement where they fill up Mr. McMahon's Corvette, the beer truck incident, obviously when he attacks him in the hospital and he gets hit with the bedpan. Stone Cold Steve Austin made it entertaining every single time he stepped foot on Monday Night Raw and terrorized Mr. McMahon. Now, granted, they never really had matches. I can only think of a couple that come to mind. Obviously, you have the steel cage match at St. Valentine's Day Massacre in 99. They had a ladder match at King of the Ring 99. But other than that, this is a feud that spawned over the course of a whole era. The Attitude Era from 97 all the way to 2001 really focused in on Mr. McMahon versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, because even then, when McMahon wasn't physical, he would have other individuals fight off Austin for him, whether it was guys like Triple H, whether it was guys like The Rock. There was always someone that Mr. McMahon was pitting against Stone Cold Steve Austin, and we were waiting for him to overcome those odds. But for me, number one has to be a feud that transcends pro wrestling, because not only was it in the ring, but it was outside of the ring, as we have Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart. Obviously, I might be a little biased because I'm a Shawn Michaels guy, but this feud really does it for me, because it takes everything from the previous, entries in this list. It's personal. It's two guys wanting to be the best. It has storylines that transcend pro wrestling and downright could be cartoonish and silly and outlandish. It has controversy. It has conspiracy theories. It's entertaining. Two of the very best to ever step foot in the ring on a personal level, on a professional level. Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart changed the landscape of professional wrestling. Not only because it was one of the first times that we saw athletic, undersized wrestlers really get attention from management and the audience, but because of guys like Mr. McMahon's involvement in the Montreal Screwjob. It sets in motion for the future of professional wrestling. And it shouldn't just be chalked down to 1997's Montreal Screwjob. They had classic matches, of course, like at WrestleMania 12, in the Iron Man match. They had the Montreal Screwjob, which is really well known. But then the matches between the Rockers and the Hart Foundation, they also had a matchup at Survivor Series 92 for the WWE title. Every time these guys set foot in the ring, magic was going to occur. And these are two of the most influential wrestlers of their time, or of any time really. You look at the current crop of professional wrestlers, and a lot of them point to these two individuals as their inspiration and motivation in getting in the business. And for that, we have to recognize its importance and its significance in the history of pro wrestling. And those are 5 of my favorite professional wrestling feuds of all time. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like. Comment down below some of your favorite rivalries in pro wrestling, and make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can watch some of these videos that I've already uploaded in the past. Of course, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. Thank you for dropping by today, and I'll see you in the next one.